Okay, so welcome back. And on this one, we are going to do some sound design. We're going to build some sounds. And I gotta be honest, this is the first time I do this kind of, content. I never did something like this. It kind of, I imagine how this should work in my head, kind of a thought about this. But this is the first time I do it, so I don't know how it's going to go. All right. So of course we did a series of the Mini B, learning how to use the Mini B. It was like 5 or 6 videos. So this is the kind of the conclusion of that whole series, which is, if you think about that, is just a course, right? Just a course about the Mini B. But in this one, we're going to put everything we learned into practice. We're going to have we have a kind of a track that I made some changes, and some other parts are from construction kits. And I got a track, a 16 bar loop, kind of a, just loop. So watch your ears. I'm going to do the playing right now. So yeah, it sounds like that because all the presets, all the things right here, bass, arp, chords, strings, and bells are using the same Mini B. And they are on the default preset, so that's why everything sounds the same. But we're gonna go one by one, and we're gonna just build an arp, build the bass, build some chords, build some strings, and so on and so on. So I've never did something like this. So let's see what happens. So okay, so let's just hear the track and at least hear the first parts of the tracks. The track. I'm gonna go, and it's a pretty simple kick with a pretty simple snare. That's all. So then, of course, we can start with the bass, the fundamental. And this is the bass. It's kind of a synthwave track, right? Okay. So we need to talk about how we're going to build this, and we're going to go right here. And this is the bass Mini V. This is the track for the Mini V. So if I play this, of course, now we need to kind of decide what we want to do. So in this case, I'm going to go keep the range on 8. And now whenever you build the bass, most of the times a saw wave will give you kind of the grit of the bass. And then whatever it's lower than that is going to give you the fundamental tone, like, the boom, like the lower part. And whenever you build the bass, of course, this is like the fundamentals, but then you need to do a little bit of complement with the cut of frequency. So you can get rid of the high frequencies because this is a bass, right? So I'm going to start on 8. I'm going to do right here, a sawtooth. Then I'm going to go do a sawtooth right here, some 8 right here. Maybe I'm going to go to 14, something lower because, we already have a high frequency right here. So maybe 16 is going to be a little bit better. Then, of course, what we need to do is a little bit of detuning right here. So I'm going to go to -22, and I'm going to go to this one and do the opposite. I'm going to go the other way. Now on this one, it's still going to be lower than this one. So we're going to go in steps. This is high frequency of the bass, the mid, and the lowest. And I'm going to do a triangle. Now the triangle is a very easy to hear kind of a fundamental tone. And it's not a sine wave, but pretty close. So that's why I'm using it to get a fundamental. So of course, we know we need to turn on the oscillators. I'm going to go and maybe leave this one here. This one, I'm going to go and raise the volume. And on this one, we need to do a little bit more volume. So if I do the play, let's see how it sounds. Starting to sound like a bass, of course. But of course, not quite there. So now we need to take care of what's going on right here. Now, for now, we have it on. So everything we do on the keyboard is going to kind of drive the filter. I don't want that. Just going to go and disable this. And right now we just need to start, doing the filtering. So I'm going to go do some play and I'm going to start cutting. And notice that we could have already get a nice groove with this. All right. Of course, sounds pretty dull, but I'm going to go to the contour, give it a little bit more because I want to use the envelope just to provide a little bit more grit. And I'm going to do maybe a little bit of decay. And if I go, notice that this one will go higher and we get more high frequencies, which is not what I want in this case. Sometimes you want that. And I'm going to go maybe a little bit more in the sustain so we can get a bit more body. So the next thing is going to be the loudness control. How loud, how aggressive this is going to be. This is going to give us body. Notice the body of the bass. So if it's too much, it's just going to take over the track. And sometimes with a bass, or actually with any sound, you want to maybe get a little bit of attack time. If not, it's going to just kind of cut through the mix very easily. So it already sounds good, we can really use this. Maybe a little bit more cut of frequency, a little bit more decay, so we can give a little bit more grid. And now what I would like to do, I would like to check how it sounds in unison. Alright, sounds good. I'm gonna go and detune it. Just a little bit more. And if I turn this off, turn this on, notice that we are getting a lot of this. So I'm gonna go down on this. I want more of the lower action. There we go. So this is the fundamental of the bass. Notice how it sounds. So when we want to add a little bit of grid, we just add maybe a little bit of that and that's it. Let me just go down this one. Much better. So that's a nice bass. Very simple. We're gonna start doing simple things. We're not gonna go crazy and do weird stuff. Okay, so it just already sounds good. Now, of course, it sounds a bit dull. And if you want to add a little bit more bite, again, go on the decay. It will give you bite. Oh, go to the cutoff and just give it a little bit more bite. Now, I'm gonna go to the advanced section and I'm gonna do a little bit of modulation. No, a little bit of this. I'm gonna disable this one. It's kind of in the way right now. And I'm gonna go to the effects and just do a little bit of chorus. You notice it sounds immediately bigger. Right, so maybe too much lows. I'm gonna go and add a little bit more bite. Alright, so it's all kind of already sounds good. So I'm gonna leave it like it is, and then we're gonna go back later if we need to. The next thing is gonna be the ARP, right? The ARP, it's kind of important because this is a synthwave track. So I'm gonna go just to the ARP, and this sounds like that. Which sounds like crap. Oh, of course, we need to do something about this. Now, okay, so I'm gonna go right here, gonna open the ARP, gonna go right there, and notice that we are on a default patch. So I'm gonna go start with the range of 8, and then range of 8, and I don't know, maybe 14th right here. And since we are, doing something like this, I'm going to go and detune a little bit more so we can get a little bit more spread on this one. And I'm still going to use the sawtooth again, so we can get that bite. And then I'm going to go and do the triangular again. So we are pretty much doing the same in this case. I'm going to go right here, go maybe right there. Why not? And yeah, let's see what happens with this one. So as soon as, of course, this is going to sound very familiar to the bass sound. But since we have a higher frequencies, it sounds different, right? The bass, we have lower, keys, and these ones are high keys, so they do sound different. And they sound very bright, so we are going to need to cut them off. Now, of course, if we cut them off, they're going to go very, very dark. So I'm going to go and add a little bit of this, right? And I'm going to turn off the keyboard maybe right here. And okay, and I'm going to go do a little bit of attack time. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to show you something in a minute. So again, I'm going to go. Now, if I do something like this, let me go up on the filter. This is going to go super big and this is an ARP. Now, it depends on what you want to do. If you want the ARP to take a lot of space, maybe you don't want to go crazy on the decay. You just want to do a little, very short. It's kind of a staccato. Right, so staying, I'm going to keep it all the way up. I'm not going to do unison in this one, but I'm going to go and provide a little bit of glide. And it immediately will just, give a sound a little bit different. Right, so remember that the glide right here needs to be on. Already sounds good. Now, of course, we still need to add a little bit of magic because it's still kind of a dull. So I'm going to go to the advanced tab. I'm going to go to the modulation. And I'm going to kind of reset everything back to nothing. Because we get some defaults right here that I don't want. So what we can do, we can maybe go to the LFO right here. And remember right here we have an LFO, right? So we can midi-sync this, and I'm going to keep it like that. And on the LFO, what I want to do, I want to do a little bit of pitch, kind of a shifting. And I'm going to do it just maybe to the 1 and 2. And remember, FM is the frequency modulation. And notice it goes crazy. Now, of course, the trick is that This is too crazy. So I just want to do a little bit. It will give us that vintage vibe. And that's it. If we just play everything. Now, of course, you cannot argue that sounds like shit. But this is because we have no effects at all. As soon as we add a little bit of magic, a little bit of effects, it's gonna go and take life. A little bit of course, and the delay is gonna make a world of difference. And now it sounds vintagey. Alright. So let's say it was not that hard. So let's just solo this for a second. And just hear the delay. The delay is going to make this one go to the left and right because we are using different timings right here. Right? So we have a difference between left and right, and this one just will give you that enhancement on the stereo field. And notice the feedback is different as well. And right here you can go crazy, but as soon as you start separating too much the left from the right, the track is gonna go a little bit messy. So sounds good. Maybe we could do some adjustments, but for now, I'm just gonna let it pass. Now the bass, I feel like it sounds a little bit kind of too loose. I'm gonna make it shorter, just a little bit shorter. Right, cool. So the next on the list, I'm gonna go here. It's gonna be this one. And notice it sounds like, again, it sounds like crap. So these are some chords. So let me just show you the midis because this is something I didn't do. The bass, it's just a very simple, a very simple MIDI. It's going to be an F and then G. That's it. And the ARP is just pretty much following the same idea and repeating itself. Right? Let me just make it bigger so you can see it. Maybe if you're on your phone, you're going to be able to see it. Okay, so let's go to the chords right now. So this one, if we just, make it alone, we solo it, it sounds like shit. All right. Okay, so, we have some chords, and this one, what it's doing is pretty fundamental. It's just playing some chords, and then at the bottom, it's kind of playing the root. Now, whenever you do something like this, you're going to get more frequencies because you're just covering or you're playing different keys on the spectrum, so you get a larger sound, which is cool, just a chord. Now, of course, right now it sounds like crap because if I go to the Mini B, of course, it's on default, and by default, the Mini B is not a polyphonic instrument. It's just a mono synth. So it's going crazy whenever we play different notes, we play chords, just goes crazy. As soon as I go right here, and it's going crazy. Let me just go down the volume. We get something much better. Now, of course, this is too bright, and we need to make it better. I'm gonna keep the range of 8. I'm gonna keep a saw right here, and maybe I'm gonna do a square right here. And why not? I'm gonna go and just keep it like there. And on this one, what I want to do a modulation with the oscillator number 3. Because we can, right? We already, talked about how this works. So I'm going to keep everything to 0. And maybe I'm going to go and use an inverted saw. And already, this one is going to sound, a little bit better. This one I'm going to keep it off because we don't need it. Now I'm going to go all the way up on this one. This is like the fundamental. And this one is just going to join the saw we have right here. So the glide control, I'm going to maybe turn it off. Now it's going to sound a little bit better, but still it's going to suck. All right. So notice it goes crazy whenever it goes to a different chord. And this is because we need to control this, and we need to control, as well, we need to control the filters. Okay, so let's do it. I'm going to go to the cut of frequency. And what I'm just going to cut. I'm going to cut. We don't need all those high frequencies. So I'm going to go and play it. Right. So now the sustain is all the way up. So nothing is going down. So I'm going to go and bring it down. I'm going to go to the decay as well. And I'm going to go and provide a little bit of attack. And this is how, you know, you will build the pad with longer attack times. Because whenever the sound starts, you want to ramp up. And then of course the sound is gonna die, and maybe you want to bring the sustain a little bit down. Now also what I want to do a little bit of movement of the counter frequency. So that's gonna do the magic. It's gonna just move it slowly. And already sounds pretty good. Maybe a little bit of resonance just to get a peak. And again, already sounds good. Now I want to do a little bit of modulation since we are using this as a modulation source. I'm gonna go right here and just reset everything we got because I don't like it. I'm gonna just remove it. This one is already off. Okay, so we're gonna use the VCO number 3, remember? And maybe I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make it a little bit faster. Why not? And I'm gonna say that I want to give a little bit of modulation to the square we have right here, to the width. So it's VCO2 pulse width modulation. And we are gonna be able to hear this. Let me just go off. Notice we really hear now. It's just gonna make this sound a little bit bigger. It's okay, so let me go back to getting saw right here. This one I'm gonna go a little bit down. We're gonna turn it on, of course. Already sounds good. Now I'm gonna go again to the VCO number 3 and let's see what we can do. Maybe I want to do a little bit of going up and down, you know, kind of a tremolo vibe. And I'm gonna use the VCO number 2 since that one is the one we are doing modulation. I'm gonna go VCO number 2 and I'm gonna go to the amplitude, which is the volume. So what I want to do is something like that. Can you hear the movement? Yeah, that's what I want to do. What we want to do. So I'm gonna go VCO number 3, just gonna go up. And there you go, you get the movement. AV there. And remember, we are using this as a frequency oscillator. I'm gonna go and bring this down as well. It already sounds good. Sounds what we want, which is something in the background that has this pad kind of a vibe. I'm gonna go to the effects and I'm gonna go and turn this one off because it sucks. And I'm gonna go with the nice chorus. And maybe a little bit of delay, why not? Just a little bit. Sounds nice, so if you play with the other things. Sounds much better. Now, of course, we need to do a little bit of leveling this. And the chords are way in your face. Not way in your face, but they are just kind of there. So I'm gonna go maybe a little bit down. Okay. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna go and add some effects, some post effects. We are not gonna go crazy. We are not gonna do filtering nor reverb. Well, maybe a little bit of reverb, but what I mean, compression and crazy Q. We are just not gonna do this. So what I want to do on this one, and this is one of the reasons that sound weird. I wouldn't say weird, but it's just lacks something, and it's the movement of the kick with the sidechain. We never did this, and that's why the bass sounds very kind of very in your face. It's just like in the way of everything. So I'm going to use a plugin to do the side change so we can, kind of start easy. So this is Nicky Romero. This is a plugin developed by Cable Guys, and this will do an instant sidechain. Let me just go right here and then play it, and now we get a much more better sound for this track, and everything is gonna let the kick pass, and we get this nice movement with the bass. If I turn it off, it's just kind of again, 2 in the way. With the knob, we can go less or we can go more. So maybe the ARP, we can leave it without the sidechain, but if we add the sidechain, it's gonna add a little bit of movement. And remember, the sidechain, this plugin can go in very small amounts. Now it's doing the pump. If I go down, kind of two in the way. So I'm gonna go and do a little, just a little. And if I play the chords, since now everything else is just kind of following the same groove, the chords kind of seem out of place. So I'm gonna go and just bring the sidechain as well. Much better, right? Much better. And I like, you know, the full width. And another thing I would like to do is on the ARP, I'm gonna go and give it a little bit of more chorus. We are already doing it, but sometimes the built-in effects we get with the Mini V is just sucked. So I'm gonna go and do a chorus dimension D, which is, you know, from Arturia. So I'm gonna go and do a dimension D. I'm gonna go and just, you know, just unsolo all of this and just go to the ARP, and it will, you know, already sound good. Without the dimension, it's just much mono, right? So this one will add width, and since we get width, it's gonna move to the sides, and the bass is gonna have a little bit more space, let's say. Now this is something that, of course, whenever you build a track, you need to do a cue, and you need to do a little bit of separation of everything, which is not what we're gonna do. And okay, so I like it, cool. What I like to do as well is just a little bit of reverb, because the ARP, even though it sounds good, it's kind of a two in your face. It's just on top of everything. So whenever you add a little bit of compression and whenever you add a little bit of reverb, it's gonna move the instrument a little bit to the back. So I'm gonna do maybe a bright hall, and this is too much. I'm gonna go and do a little. So now notice that this is not, you know, kind of in your face, it's a little bit in the background. In your face, a little bit in the back, which is something that, again, we want in this case. Now the chord sounds it sounds cool. Now it sounds good. But what I want to do, I want to enhance the stereo image. You can do it with, of course, the dimension D, or you can do the good old trick of a stereo splitting this and using that delay. So I'm going to go to the stereo split, and I'm going to go and do a simple delay. And you can do this with Ableton. You can do this with the Cubase. This is the oldest trick in the book. I'm splitting left from right. Now on the right, I'm going to go no feedback, no EQ, and all the way in on the mix. And I'm going to turn this into a millisecond delay. And I'm going to go and I'm going to offset the right side from the, you know, with 10 or maybe, you know, something like 20 milliseconds, 20. It's cool. And this one, what it will do is going to make the pad kind of a wider pad. Notice I turned it off and it sounds centered. On is wider. And now if we play it, everything starts to sound a bit better. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is going to be the chords number 2. And this is pretty much what it is. It's just the same idea, but played in fifths. That's it. So of course, right now, if I go to this one, we have the default patch, which again, it just right from default, it just sounds like crap, right? Okay. So guys, I'm going to go right here. I'm going to do the playing and go down because it's just too noisy. So that's how it sounds. Any context? Okay. So what I want to do, I want to go low. I don't want this to be super high. I want this to join the chords. So if I make it super high, you know, with high frequencies, you know, go up in pitch, it's going to jump out of, you know, out of the track. It's just going to go over everything. I'm going to trying to keep it as low as possible. So I'm going to go keep it on 16. Why not? And since we are kind of using, you know, pretty much the same right here, I'm going to maybe change this one to here. And on this one, I'm going to keep like this. And I'm going to go and just go a little bit more just to make it, just to separate the oscillators just a little bit more. Why not? And if we play it, it's going to sound a little bit better. Still sounds like crap. Since we are playing 2 keys, it means that maybe if we do mono, it's just not going to work. So we need to turn it to polyphonic. All right. So I'm gonna do just a little bit on this one. And on this one, of course, I need to go up. And the width, of course, is going to affect what we do. Okay, already sounds good. Now what I want to do, I just want to cut. I'm gonna maybe disable this. I'm gonna go and do some cutting because we don't want the super bright sound right here. I'm gonna go a little bit of this. I'm gonna keep it like that. Now this one, it's kind of a join. It's gonna join the chords, so I don't want this to kind of get that plucky kind of a sound. I want that transition, that, you know, wow. There we go. A little bit of sustain. Right. That's what I want. I'm gonna help this movement with a little bit of attack on the amp, a little bit of decay, and maybe not so much of a sustain. And it gets, you know, it's like that vintage sound, that vintage kind of a synth. And again, we are joining the chords. Right. So, okay, so what else can we do? I'm gonna go maybe to modulation. Let me just turn this off. And let's see what we can do. Maybe we can do something special on this one. Okay, let me just do this. I'm gonna go to velocity. And let me just remove this one. I'm gonna go off and off. Just off and off. And go up in volume on this one. And the velocity of the keys, you know, how hard we, you know, made this MIDI, can modulate something. So in this case, what we can do, we can go to the VCA amplitude. So this is going to help, you know, to the chord to jump a little bit more, depending on the velocity. We can do an LFO since we're this, because this one sounds good, but it needs a little bit of movement. It's just very static. So maybe I'm going to go to the VCO, since this is square, and I'm going to move that square to add movement. And notice it's moving. Okay, I'm going to use that velocity as well to help the, you know, to help the cutoff a little bit more. And I'm going to go and do cutoff, and it will just go and make it brighter, of course. But it's just a different movement than this. Maybe I'm going to go down on this one. And it sounds good. Now, of course, the magic comes when we add a little bit of effects. So I'm still going to do a little bit of chorus. Maybe I'm going to use the third one because it's bigger. Maybe not so much of rate. And I'm going to do a little bit of delay. Maybe I'm going to go shorter. All right. Now, if we play with the other one, now it's just going to be, it's going to merge just a little bit better, right? Much better. Now, one thing that happens is that sometimes since this one has a side chain, this one is going to jump way, you know, much more than this one, because of course the volume of this one is being dug down, and this one goes on the top. So you can keep this if you want. In this case, it's not what I want. I'm going to go and just go and bring the side chain, and now this two will merge much better. And if we play it. Okay. So what we can do as well, I'm gonna go and do a little bit of Valhalla delay, actually reverb. I'm gonna drop that reverb. I'm gonna put it before the kickstart, because if we put it after, the sound that flows into the reverb is gonna be the one we are ducking down. So in this case, not what I want. Of course, it's too big. I'm gonna go and do a little bit of mix right here. Maybe I'm gonna go to Bright Hall and not so long, you know, just to provide a little bit of depth. Because right now it's just still kind of in your face, so I'm moving it down, moving it back with the reverb. And already sounds good, you know, it sounds like a track. And notice we didn't do anything of EQing nor compression nor anything. So we have two more to go. All right, so I'm going to go to this one and I'm going to show you what the strings sound. And notice that I kind of thought this to create, so we can practice and build different sounds. You know, a bass, an ARP, which is kind of some keys, some kind of a pad style, something playing on fifth with a vintage kind of a sound, you know, that synth sound, that saw sound. And now we're gonna do some strings, which is again just a different thing. We just need to build the strings. So okay, so how it sounds is gonna be very crappy. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. Oh, of course, we need to do much better than this. So I'm gonna go open it, and by default, I'm gonna make it polyphonic. Even though it's just a single thing, I'm just gonna make it polyphonic. I'm gonna go keep it on 8 because I want some high frequencies, but I also want some low frequencies because we are kind of doing some kind of ensemble. So if you keep everything on the same frequencies, it's like, you know, all the ensemble is just playing on the same spot, which is maybe not what you want. So I'm gonna go maybe to the third one. I'm not sure if I really need it, but maybe yeah, maybe we're gonna need it. So I'm gonna go to the oscillator, and I want to kind of provide a little bit of separation because remember we are kind of creating this ensemble vibe. So if everything is on the same place, you know, I'm gonna go and maybe I'm gonna do this too, just to be similar, right? And this one, I'm gonna keep it on square. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna see how it sounds. Okay. So we already got a little bit of phasing, which is, you know, not that bad. Much better. Okay. So I'm gonna do, let's see how it sounds with glide. No, I don't like it. Okay, so I'm gonna go and start doing the filtering. I'm gonna go right here, and what I want to do, I want to do some movement with the actual modulation. Remember how we did it before with the modulation? So I'm gonna go off on this one, just remove all the things we don't need for now. And we are doing everything from the scratch. That's the whole point of this videos. So I'm gonna go to the velocity, and I want to help the cutoff to move a little bit more. So that is, it goes a bit brighter. I just want a little bit on each stroke. I'm gonna do the effects right now because right now it's just hurting my ears. So I'm gonna do maybe a little bit of chorus. I'm gonna do the number 2 and a little bit of delay. Maybe not that much. So I'm gonna go and bring back the feedback because it's just too much. Just want a little bit of depth. Okay. So that's fine. So okay, I'm gonna go right here to the attack time, and I'm gonna go and maybe go right here and provide a little bit of amount of filtering because right now we are just pretty much doing nothing. Okay, maybe. Okay, so now since these are strings, we're gonna need to provide a little bit of that, you know, kind of that movement. And there we go. Now it's much better. Of course, if you're thinking, well, this, you know, doesn't sound like a string. You know, some strings, of course, the only thing that sounds like strings are strings. So if you want a string sound, you need to get an instrument that makes strings. Now still, this one is going to be something that's going to be in the background. Right now it's not that bad, could be better, but I'm going to go and drown it on reverb. That's what I want. I want this in the background, so I'm gonna make it bright hall, and just give a little bit too much, a little bit more reverb. And right now, when you play it alone, it sounds like crap, but when you play it in context, it's just a little bit better. Alright, so again, we maybe can make this a little bit better. And I believe it's kind of a too bright. So I'm going to move this a little bit less. A little bit less and a little bit less. And maybe a little bit more on the chorus. And that's it. Maybe A little bit more decay. And now I'm doing the pre-delay. I'm kind of doing it by ear. It's kind of a random. You do have a chart where you can check the speed of your track, the BPM of your track, and you can get the subdivisions, how many milliseconds are, you know, all the different subdivisions, and you can get it right spot on. In this case, I'm just gonna avoid doing this. So I think it sounds cool. Could be much better, but and I think it's too large. I want to make it shorter. Oh, much better. Much better. All right, so yeah, that's what I want. Something that's short. Something sometimes when you do this, it's something when something is bothering you. Is that, you know, that maybe it's too large. You know, the envelope on this one is just crazy, but this one feels much better. So let me add a little bit of gliding. So add a little bit of. I kind of like it. And in context. Okay, sounds cool. Now, of course, this is something that needs to be in the background, so I'm going to go and maybe put it there. So the last sound is going to be a bell. And notice again, it's a string, some chords, some, you know, just different sounds. Because the main purpose of this video, it's not to, you know, make a track. It's just not. It's just to create different things. I would love to use different plugins, maybe a different one to do a bass, which, you know, the Mini V for bass is kind of good, but maybe the ARP I would use something else. Maybe the chords I would use maybe the Mini V, and then some other plugin. Right now we're kind of we are being forced to use always the same plugin because this is what we are doing. We are practicing more than anything. But in real life, you should use different plugins. This one is going to give you kind of a different vibe. It just sounds much, much better, just a little bit better. And that difference in sound, it's just going to make the sound, you know, come alive. Whenever you're using pretty much always the same thing, it's just a little bit weird. But that's fine. You know, we are practicing. So I'm going to go to the bells. And on the bells, we are going to do kind of a bell sound. And maybe if you really want to do a bell, you will need to use something like FM synthesis. That will give you, you know, just a nice bell. On this one, we cannot really do FM synthesis, so we're going to try our best. I'm going to go maybe put it in 4 because I want high frequencies. I want to maybe put it there. Why not? And what I'm going to do, maybe we are going to go and do something like this. So we can get, you know, again, different frequencies from this one. So I'm going to go 7 semitones. Cool. And this one I'm going to go up. It's going to sound very kind of harsh. So I'm going to go and play it. If I go low, oh, of course. Now it's too much. I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down. And this one down as well. So let me do it again. Now notice it sounds too bright, and this is because the envelope and everything we are doing right here is just a bit too much. So I'm gonna go right here, I'm gonna go there, but then I don't want sustain on this one. I want kind of a plucky bell sound. So this one is gonna help, and already kind of gives us that you know, that vibe. I'm gonna make it polyphonic, so we can hear the ringing of the different voices. And maybe I'm gonna go and do some cutting, and I'm gonna do some movement with this one. Why not? So maybe there, a little bit of resonance. It already sounds like a bell. All right, let me just turn this off and see what happens. All right, so it's gonna start over, of course. All right. I kind of like it. Let's do a little bit of glide. Let's do a little more. We're going to start over. All right. Of course, not that much. It's okay. I believe that, you know, that is cool. So I'm going to go and just maybe choose this one. Now, let's try again. Maybe I'm gonna need to loop the right section. And okay, notice that you still get that vel sound. Now, whenever you want to build a vel type of sound, let me just loop this part. And whenever you build a kind of a bell type of sound, the best way of doing this is going to be with the FEM synthesis and using sine waves. That's the classic vel sound. Right now, I'm just gonna using this, which is our, these are triangles. And they sound fine, but the sound's gonna be a little bit darker. So we're gonna go and need to bring it up. Now, if you want to get that vibe of the bell kind of a sparkling, maybe you're gonna need to go up right here and bring something that gives you a little bit more high frequencies. In this case, I kind of already have a lot of high frequencies, so you know what? I'm gonna go and just keep it there and see what happens. It already sounds like a vel. Alright, so I'm gonna go and do the advanced section. And I'm gonna go off, and then off, and then off. And this is kind of taking too long. Remember, maybe this is the first time I do this. And maybe all of this sounds on one video is just maybe too much. So let me go to an LFO and do the modulation, the FM modulation of all the voices. So if I go crazy, it's nice. It's not that bad. It gives us that, vintagey vibe. But I want maybe just a little bit. I like it. Okay, I'm gonna keep it. Now, of course, we need to do some effects. I'm gonna do a little bit of chorus because it's the only thing we can do here on this plugin. And a little bit of delay. Right, I feel like the glide is just too much. And we get that, that vel type sound. So let's see how this sounds in context. Gonna go and play it. Okay, so it sounds good. Now, what I forgot to do is to go and do the original loop. And this bell, this bell actually comes from that, that sample pack I told you earlier I used, which is pretty good sample pack. So this one is 8 bars, I guess, or maybe less. I don't know how much bars this is. I guess if the sound ends here, all right, so whatever. So let me just bring it here. Sometimes, this mouse kills me. Okay, so let's try again. I'm gonna go and stop it and play it from start. Okay, sounds good. Now the strings, I would like to do a little bit of side chaining just to get a little bit of movement. It's too much, just want a little bit. And same thing on the bells. But again, I don't want to go crazy on the bells. I just want to go not that much. Okay, so let's see how this sounds in context. Maybe the bass is just too much. That's fine. This one is maybe go a little bit down. And the snares is just too much. Alright, so of course it sounds good. Now, at the end of the day, this is just an idea, alright? It's just a loop. So whenever you want to build a track, of course, then you create the sounds, you create a loop, and then you just do the arrangement and everything else. Now, of course, this one needs, leveling, it needs EQ, it needs compression, it needs a lot of things just to create a good track. But, we get a good beginning, and all just using one plugin, one synth for everything, which is something I cannot recommend. Always use different synths to get different sounds. But it's good, man. All right, so this was the first time I do this, this type of kind of a video. I never did this. So this is the first time I'm doing it, and I'm learning, when I'm learning something right now, that maybe six different tracks is a bit too much. 6 different sounds. So maybe the next time I do this, I'm going to make just 4 and just, cut it, because maybe 40 minutes of video is just way too much. It's okay. So, but I'm still going to do, all of this, but break it on different videos. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this and you learned something about all of this. Again, I don't know. This is the first time I do this. Just put in the comments if you this was useful. And all the patches, everything I do on the channel is gonna go as a download on Patreon because of course I need to do some financing. I need to finance the channel. This takes time, man. And it's gonna go to Patreon. So I'm gonna go download or get all the patches and put it there, so you can go and get it if you go to my Patreon. Now, of course, you're gonna find as the channel grows and I do this content, it's gonna grow. You're gonna get a lot of patches for the mini Bs, for all the synths I do. So the idea is that if you go and do the Patreon, is that you get something in return, not just do help me with the channel, right? You just get something in return. Maybe if you pay 10 bucks for a month, I don't know, you get all the sample packs, all the presets, and the projects and everything else. So you get something much better in return for just 10 bucks, something like that. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this one. I really don't know how this is gonna go. I need to do the edit of the video and everything else. So let me know in the comments if this was useful. All right, so see you on the next one.